This is Joe Biden. I think you're listening to Don Tini and Off the Castle. Look, DA and KT are great. They don't do fake news. DT and KC, they are beating the COVID. Enjoy the show.
I'm President Donald J. Trump, and you're listening to the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle Show. These two are tremendous. They are the true OGs of wrestling podcasting since 2004, and they don't fake news to make news. Support these two guys, and make sure to buy a DT and KC shirt. Everyone enjoy the DT and KC show, and make America great again.
It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
What's going on, everybody? It's Sunday night, the 19th of January, 2025. Sit down with yours truly is in effect. Vote. Which intro do we use for Monday night show? Do we use President Trump or do we use President Biden? The Don Tini and Off the Castle show. Oh, man, I didn't vote for Kamala Harris or Trump this time around, but I tell you, I'm kind of anticipating things getting better in this country. I just feel it. I just want to see this country do better. I want to see the economy get better. I want to see everybody be able to enjoy themselves a little bit more. At the end of the day, it's all that matters. So, by the way, I am Don Tony. I identify myself as he, him. I am a white male, married, wearing glasses, little chubby, black hat, T-shirt. If anybody knows why I said that, props to you. The more I read about California, the more I'm just baffled. How do you put those people in office? I don't understand it. I don't understand it. I mean, no one deserved the disaster that happened over there. But, you put those people in office. I mean, you're playing Russian roulette. Here in New York, it's the same thing. Here in New York, it's just a matter of time of something devastating to go wrong, and it's our own fault because of the people that we put in office. It's crazy to see what's going on, but we're here to have some fun. We're here to talk about whatever is on your mind. I want to thank you all for joining me. For those that are live, those are on the archive as well. And we'll talk about whatever is on your mind for this evening. Now, I would appreciate a little bit of help from our live friends out there. TNA Bound for Glory is going down as we speak. So if any match updates come in, please share it. I would like to give maybe some live reaction on the show. I think it's do or die for Joe Hendry. Now with this deal that TNA has with WWE, there is no urgency to bring Joe Hendry into the WWE. It's going to be really interesting to see where this goes. Did I say Bound for Glory? I'm sorry. Genesis. I did predictions a couple of days ago. I was writing up some news for earlier. Yeah, TNA Genesis. Was Bound for Glory the one that he lost to Nick Nemeth? Maybe that's why I have it on the brain. Moose is fighting Ace Austin right now. Did they bring out a new X Division championship? because I know there was all that controversy that Moose was going to get rid of the belt or was going to debut a different belt. You think any WWE talent show up today? I don't think so. I don't think so. If you really think about it, TNA talents have to show up on WWE television first, not the opposite. If you really think about it, WWE does not need TNA. And they should do a little bit of a storyline like that. Have wrestlers in WWE or NXT act like we don't need you. So you have TNA knock on WWE's door, basically fuck with them a little bit. But one thing I will tell you before I get into your questions, I think a lot of people are blowing this deal a little bit out of proportion. Not saying that it won't be fun, but this is primarily NXT. This is primarily NXT, and I'm sure if someone WWE feels could benefit by putting him on mainstream television, Raw or SmackDown, of course they'll do it. But, one thing I will tell you, I'll make a prediction, and I think a lot of you will agree with me on this. I think the future of this NIL program is going, I don't want to say it's going to come to an end, but it is going to significantly be cut down. Because when you think of the amount of money that WWE is making right now, and the bigger platform that is Netflix, they don't need to hire unknown college athletes or gymnasts, with the hope that they become a wrestler in the future. They are so big and so good right now and tight. And now working a little bit with TNA, there's not too many slots that need to be filled. I mean, it's pretty obvious that the TNA aspect of it helps NXT's value go up a little bit. It might even feel a little bit similar to the black and gold era because you won't see the extremely green on NXT television as much anymore. But I think a lot of this NIL stuff is going to go away. So Ultra, the reason why we stopped taking calls is because, number one, the same people would call in every time. Nothing against that, but a lot of people would complain. Plus, it kind of affects the monotony of the show. And once Kev and I expand on YouTube, we'll bring calls back. I still got the numbers, everything. We're still paying for it. But, the thing is, it breaks up a little bit of the monotony of the show. The old days of doing DTKC show was fun, but those were 3-4 hour bangers. The days of doing 3-4 hour shows at one time are few and far between. So, and I agree with you, Les, calls should only be 2 minutes. And that's another thing too. I love all the calls, don't get me wrong. But, as you see, it's not like, ESPN or those sports shows or even politics where somebody calls in, asks a question, 10, 15 seconds, gets out of there. Some people will talk 2-3 minutes before they get to their question. If you go check out some of the other shows like Conan or even Jim Cornette and Brian Last, if you look at Brian Last will take someone's question this big and narrow it down to this. But on Conan shows, sometimes they read the entire thing. And, Disco Inferno makes me laugh a lot because Disco is like, was that a question or was that a statement? A lot of people prefer to give statements more than actual just questions to the point. And you don't want to disrespect anyone. But I will tell you this, Kevin and I do Patreon shows, and it's not a money grab. Of course, things are this big compared to the before. But we do Patreon shows every week, and there's always Q&A every week. And Kev, God bless him, man. Kev does 4 or 5 hour show stills. I can't, just physically impossible for me, because I get up at 6:30 in the morning for my office job. He does Thursday Patreon shows. He did one this past Thursday. It was 5 hours and 22 minutes. I'm like, that's awesome. You can have that much to talk about, man. So, all right. How's everybody doing? I mean, how do you all feel about this, especially in the United States, about this change, with Biden leaving office and Trump being president? I mean, I don't want to make the show about politics, but, tomorrow's going to be an interesting day. The amount of executive orders that are going to be done, it's kind of wild. I mean, I don't think people understand how much shit's going to go down tomorrow. It's pretty wild when you think about it. But I don't know. I mean, how does everybody feel? You feel a little confident? Are you really nervous? The vibe I get in my neck of the woods is a lot of hope, which is interesting. I was too young to remember it, but this, from researching and being a little bit too young, this kind of reminds me of Reagan, when Reagan got into office. Reagan picked up where Jimmy Carter left off, and Jimmy Carter had a pretty shitty economy. And Ronald Reagan, for a lot of people that don't realize it or don't know, Ronald Reagan, when he first came into office in 1981, when he was sworn in, he was looked at as a joke. A lot of people didn't take him that seriously. I mean, a lot of people, voted him in. Obviously, it was a landslide. But as far as government goes, they didn't have a lot of faith in him. Then, obviously, the infamous assassination attempt. And, it's weird what you remember all these years later. My mom was watching a soap opera, and I was home, and all of a sudden they interrupted the broadcast to cover what went down. And if you ever watched the footage from the news at that time, it was pretty intense to see that footage on regular TV. And they show the guy face down and there's blood everywhere. And they didn't censor it. You didn't have any big red X like WWF used to have back then. Then when he recovered, there was a different vibe about the country. And, I personally, look, even though I'm too young to remember most of it, I think Reagan was the best president of my lifetime. Not saying that Trump will be, but yeah, when you get someone that doesn't fuck around, you get a lot of people nervous. And that's why I honestly think shit will get done, because there's no more free rides. So we'll see. We will see. But I did not vote for either candidate this year because I just felt at this stage of the game, this is the best that the country had to offer. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, that's the best of anybody on God's green earth. That's the best you could come up with. That's why I was kind of like, it just wasn't, I wasn't interested. Now I'm interested, obviously. Hopefully the economy gets better. So you want to know something? My father was going to the inauguration. And then they moved it indoors because of the weather. And there was also some security concerns, but it was mostly weather. And he had to cancel everything because there was no guarantee that he would be inside the building where they were going to have it. One thing that is very cool, if any of you know anybody out there that was going, that had purchased a ticket, reserved a ticket, maybe this isn't for everyone, but I know they're doing it for my father and his friends, but they're going to mail you your ticket anyway. So you could frame it, keep it as a keepsake. Even though you didn't go and had to cancel, they are still sending you your ticket. So when he gets the ticket, I'll take a picture of it. I'll show it to everyone. So I'm sure you guys want to talk about wrestling, right? Because 95% of what we talk about here is wrestling. Obviously, tomorrow is a very important day here in the United States. Doesn't matter, even if Kermit the Frog was the president tomorrow. Make America great again. Yay! Doesn't matter who's in office tomorrow. It's a very big day. So we'll see what happens. So any supers come in early? Let's see. I know one came in early, and I did some research. I'll shout him out in a little bit. Yeah, definitely post your questions in the chat. Don't have to super. You all should know that by now. But I do, they do go to the head of the table, obviously. Police Squad. What's my honest take on the Corey Graves situation? I started doing a news update for today, and I decided to hold off till tomorrow because I noticed a lot of the topics I was going to get into, Kevin and I are going to talk about tomorrow anyway. But I will say this about Corey Graves. And I've said this before, next to Michael Cole, Corey Graves is the best. the best that company has. But Corey Graves, whether he's on TV or not, he's not going to affect my viewing habits. Just like Samantha Irvin, pleasant voice to hear at the beginning of the matches. But her not being on, she will be missed. She will absolutely be missed. But doesn't change my viewing habits. Corey Graves needs to realize that if he is truly a team player, that sometimes you have to take a back seat. And I think if this is all 100% shoot, no storyline, and I have a feeling it may turn into a storyline, but if the initial incident was 100% real, I think Corey Graves deserves all the criticism that he gets his way. Your feelings are hurt because Pat McAfee comes in. It's the same thing as Logan Paul. I mean, the reach that Pat McAfee has is a big fucking deal. Sure, not people are not going to tune in simply because Pat McAfee is on, but he might get people to turn on to the TV, see what it's all about. Why is this guy so excited of what he does? And then you tune into it, you're like, you know what? I actually kind of dig this. Logan Paul and Pat McAfee remind me of the same idea, that they have such a big social media influence and power that, if they're good at what they do, you do give them TV time. Now, Logan Paul obviously is more of a entertainer. The idea that Logan Paul is going to say, oh, Nick Khan better match the $250 million, otherwise I'm going to go fight Conor McGregor. That's Logan Paul being Logan Paul. It's not him strong-arming Nick Khan. That is Logan Paul being an entertainer, a social media influencer. Will he get $250 million to fight Conor McGregor? No, absolutely not. It's nuts. It's not happening. But it gets a buzz. A lot of people talk about it. Corey Graves comes off as a little bit too selfish, and his pride is a little bit hurt. But hey, over the years, I remember Joey Styles being demoted. Mauro Ranallo was doing NXT. Jim Ross would be demoted. And in some people's eyes, yeah, that might be looking like a demotion, but Corey Graves can help enhance, make the NXT talent feel bigger than what they really are. Why do you think people love Mauro Ranallo's commentary so much? Because he makes the matches feel more important than what they are. Joey Styles, that's what I loved about Joey Styles from back in the day. He made the matches feel better than what they are. Corey Graves needs to suck it up and be a team player and understand that down the line, someone else will have to take that spot. And if he can't handle that, let him go. Let him go. If he goes to AEW, it's not going to suddenly make me want to watch AEW. He is very expendable. And I hope he realizes that WWE loses no viewers, whether Corey Graves is there or not. And the little remark about how his wrestling career ended not because of his choice. I'm a huge Corey Graves supporter, but I'll say this right now. Who the fuck handcuffed you to WWE 10 years ago? If you insisted that you still could wrestle, you leave. You leave. Why did you stay? Why did you can't have, this buyer's remorse 10 years later. Nobody fucking chained you to the ground. You decided you wanted to say, you decided to become a commentator. Wasn't someone else in that same situation? Didn't they want, who was it? Who's the guy that had, no, it wasn't the guy that had the incident with John Cena. There was someone else that they wanted to turn into a commentator. And I don't think it was Tom Hannafin. There was somebody else back then. And he was like, no, I still have more to do. And he left. So I personally think Corey Graves, now WWE's in a bad situation. Do you suddenly just put him back on TV? Do you have to turn it into a storyline? I don't know. I will tell you, and this was part of my news update for today, Corey Graves tweeted that stuff and he's now deleted it. Well, I got directly from someone behind the scenes that works at WWE. The reason why Corey Graves deleted that tweet is because that is a WWE Twitter account. So WWE does not want on their Twitter accounts, the wrestling names, to be doing it. You might remember, who was the wrestler back then? Who was it? It wasn't Darren Young. There was a wrestler that tweeted something on WWE. I thought it had to do with sexuality or something. And WWE's like, no, you can't say that. And they made him delete the tweets. Does anybody remember who that was? Darren Young does not sound right. Because Darren Young's been gone for an awfully long time. There was someone that tweeted, not too long ago, a couple of things on Twitter, and WWE had him remove it. It wasn't Mustafa Ali either, because he owns that name. If anybody remembers the name, let me know. But there was definitely somebody on Twitter who was pretty much forced to delete the tweets because it was a WWE account. Can't remember who it is. So maybe somebody will remember. It's One Fall's birthday. Very, very cool. Happy birthday, Mr. One Fall. Happy birthday to you. So that's my take on Corey Graves. I see the chat room is not moving, so I got to reload something here. Just give me 1 second. I don't know what it is with connections tonight, but I'm getting like bullshit connection stuff here. Hang on a second. We got some bad weather here in New York, just in case anybody's interested. There we go. Let's see. I'm looking to see Jake Atlas. Was it Jake Atlas? For some reason, that doesn't sound right either, but you could be right. I think it does. Now, I know Jake Atlas obviously, is gay, but there was something. I think it might be. I got to do a little research, but I think that could very well be it. It was somebody that deleted something. The only reason why I don't think it was Jake Atlas, because it was somebody from the main roster. As far as I can remember, I always wanted to be a gangster, but as far as I can remember, Jake Atlas wasn't main roster. I don't remember who it was. So, all right. Well, anyway, to be continued. So, let's see. Kevin Walker, the Acclaim, broke up this week. They were one of the bright spots in AEW. Great entrance. How do I see the feud as singles future progressing? I hate it. I hate the split. Nothing against Anthony Bowens. I could be world champion. Yeah. For Mike's Championship Wrestling, not for AEW. I don't care if you identify yourself as straight, gay, black, white, he, him, it, they, she, we. It doesn't matter. You should know after 5 years who AEW is pushing on the food chain. This is a mid-card feud that nobody's asking for. They're trying to keep things interested. Maybe my interpretation is that maybe one of their contracts are coming up soon. And they figure, you know what? Let's do a split storyline. This way, if one does exit, it's not abrupt and his partner is not left, holding the bag. I personally don't like it. The Acclaimed is a tag team, period. This is not the New Day where Kofi could go out and be a single star or Big E or somebody else. I personally don't think this goes anywhere. This is not even Rampage material. And I have nothing against those guys. They are very, very much well-liked, and I'm a fan. But them splitting up is something. So you got to understand something. After 5 years, we know what AEW is about. We knew exactly what happens when Powerhouse Hobbs takes on Jon Moxley. We know exactly what's going to happen when Brian Cage takes on Kenny Omega. You could make it appear that someone is getting a fucking push and a push and a push and a push. And then they get to a certain spot and you have them wrestle 30 minutes or 20 minutes. And because they wrestled 20 minutes against the best, oh, they lost by this much. Bull fucking shit. Powerhouse Hobbs is still mid-card. Lance Archer is below mid-card. You know, every time I see every few months, people are like, oh, they're finally giving someone a push. I'm like, you know, how many bridges did you buy by now? You haven't figured it out? This is a fucking formula that they keep doing. You mean to tell me that Anthony Bowens and Max Caster is going to somehow become compelling TV? Why? Because Max Caster is a hickory dickory dock? I caught you sucking some. Boop. Come on. It ain't going nowhere. And I'm just being real. I'm not an AEW hater. I'm just being real. Mystic says PCO destroyed the TNA title with a sledgehammer on GCW pay-per-view tonight. Any thoughts? What does he have? Does he have that internet title? When you say TNA title, you got to be a little bit more precise here. Because you say TNA title, that stands for world title. I think he has like that internet title. Which one does he have? The social media title? Yeah, if they're going to come out with a different title, that's fine. But what title was it? Yeah, it was the internet title. Oh, he broke it. You broke it, damn it. You know what? So what? I mean, it's not like a major belt. PCO, if he's going to debut something else, fine with me. Fine with me. Scorpio with the 5 spot. Scorpio says Megan Bayne is a monster. Put the women's belt on her ASAP. AEW's got the female Brock Lesnar in their hand. Sadly, Tony McMahon will fuck it up. Yeah, I got one problem with your scenario. Mercedes Moné. Camille. Trying to think who else. Mercedes Moné. Camille. Not even Tony Storm. Yeah, we all like Tony Storm. Has anybody taken the time yet to research Tony Storm's championship reign that made her female wrestler of the year? I invite you, some of you who haven't done it yet, go do a little research. Go check out Tony Storm's singles victories when she was the AEW Women's Champion. When you look at those victories, just take note of the big names that are not on that list. And as you read it, with all due respect, you could be like, oh my God, she was a mid-card champion. Yeah. Outside of the feud with Mariah May, she was a mid-card champion. Think I'm kidding? Go look it up. AEW did a wonderful job with the smoke and mirrors. When you go look it up, go see what I'm talking about. You put Megan Bayne to the top. Who's she going to feud with? Who's she going to squash? You know, she squashes 2-3 people. Then what? Then what? You know, you wanted to fight, you know, Lisa Marie, you know, and then once in a while a Sky Blue and a mean Joanne Green. Megan Bayne is spectacular. Not for that fucking company. Unless you're ready to fucking have her feud right with Mercedes Moné, you put the belt on her, and then what? Then what? She's going to have a confrontation with Serena Deeb. You know, some signings are great, and some signings you got to take a step back and say to yourself, okay, if I put the belt on her, now what? That's why, not to use a comparison, but Indy Hartwell. Sorry for bringing it up 50 million times, but I think it's the best example that I could give. Indy Hartwell was one of my favorite women in NXT. And while she was in NXT, before she won the women's championship, there was a internet trying to trend. It was called Give Indy a Chance. There was a petition to get Indy Hartwell on the main roster. And, you know, people ask me, what do I think about it? I said, I hate it. I'm like, come on, DT, you said she's one of your favorites. Why wouldn't you want that? I'm like, yeah. Look how many big names are on that main roster. She ain't going to leapfrog all of them. You know what's going to happen? They're going to bring in a main roster, and people are going to want to see a date next to Loomis and then do double dating with Candice LeRae and Johnny Gargano. She came up to the main roster, and it never clicked. It never clicked. They tried, but it never clicked. Now look at where she is. And she was one of the most dedicated, likable people in that company. I don't know her personally, but I know people who are friends with her that are still friends with her now, and they said she was nothing but a sweetheart, went with everything, never complained, did what she needed to do, and she still got cut. She wasn't making a ton of money. She still got cut. So bringing someone in is tremendous. Look at Camille. Look at Camille. I mean, are we going to be honest for a minute and say, and if you're going to say to me, well, maybe she is really injured. Well, that's your PR department to make sure that the entire net knows that she was written off TV for a legitimate injury or surgery or something else. She was just disappeared from storylines. And then one day she's going to return and confront Mercedes Moné, and then, oh, here's the feud. This is worse than what they did with Jamie Hayter and Britt Baker from back in the day. All right. Zarya will be back on TV, I think, this week. Either this week or next. She'll be back on TV. She was on like a week ago. I got news for you, Palmer. Mercedes Moné, I'm starting to click with, and I'll tell you why. Ricochet is the reason why I'm starting to get Mercedes Moné now. This coming week in wrestling history, this Thursday, it didn't make the news. I research everything over the last 6 years to add on to the shows. And it was this week in wrestling history that Mercedes Moné, when Sasha Banks still, there was all these rumors she was going to be in the Royal Rumble. She ended up leaving and obviously, ultimately signing with AEW down the line. But it was this week, several years ago, she would post these bizarre tweets that I love Vince McMahon. Vince McMahon is my favorite boss of all time. Vince, I love you. And they're just bizarre when you look back at them. She hasn't deleted them. Go and do an advanced Twitter search and just type in Vince and look at her tweets. You'll see them. You'll be like, this is a little bizarre. But when she did that interview and she said that her uncle Snoop Dogg told her that sometimes you got to be a hoe before you be a pimp. And I'm like, yeah, that's what Harvey Weinstein is. It didn't come off the way that she intended, but you start to realize now everything that she fucking does, she's building this persona, just like Ricochet. I realize now that Ricochet does not believe that AEW wouldn't have existed if it wasn't for him, like him being like an inspiration. That was Ricochet putting it out there to make it seem like, look at this conceited motherfucker. Look at this fucking little pretty boy saying AEW is there because of him. And you look at the Rey Mysterios, you want to go back further, you look at the Dynamite Kids, and you look at everybody else, the Tiger Masks, and then you realize, okay, I get it now. Ricochet's not a stupid motherfucker. He's actually one of the most intelligent people, and he's building this persona, this stigma about himself, so you can't tell where the line is blurred. Let's be honest, even if you despise Mercedes Moné still, isn't the line between character and reality kind of blurred? Like, you don't know where it actually is. The funny thing is, when, she recently got divorced, obviously. And some people that know her personally say that she is nothing like the person that you see on these interviews and doing the TV stuff and everything. And I think Mercedes Moné, everything that she does, it's a little bit of an extension of her character. It's her building this brand about herself. And once you kind of like realize that that's what she's doing there, it kind of starts to make a little bit more sense now. That's why now Vince McMahon is no longer a favorite. Now Tony Khan is her favorite. The only thing is, you got to be a little careful with Tony Khan. Shad Khan's kid. I forgot. Remember, I don't think I have the picture handy. I think I deleted them. Maybe I do have it. But from now on, do I have it? I don't have it. From now on, we refer to Tony Khan as Shad Khan's kid. And you know who Chris Mad Dog Russo is from baseball, commentary, sports analyst, Chris Mad Dog Russo. He did a whole tirade last week about the Jacksonville Jaguars. And when he got to Tony Khan, he kept referencing him as Shad Khan's kid. Just let that sink in. Chris Mad Dog Russo does not follow wrestling. Tony Khan in the outside world is looked at as Shad Khan's kid. This is not a 16-year-old. This is not, I almost said Baron Corbin, Trump's son, Corbin Trump, whatever his name is. That's a kid. Tony Khan is in his 40s. So you realize that, when you see grown adults, executives, owners of football companies still referencing a 40-something-year-old as a kid, there's a couple of eggs short of a dozen there. There's something legitimately up with that. All right. Kyle's asking, do we finally see Rock and Roman at Mania? I think you gotta. I think you have to. Not to keep jumping back and forth. I think it was this week in wrestling history coming up. I don't know if it was last week or it's this week coming up, is the infamous interview that Ryan Satin had with Roman Reigns a couple of years ago. I think it was around WrestleMania 37, just 4 years ago. And Roman said that he would love to face The Rock in Hollywood for WrestleMania 39. Obviously, it didn't happen for various reasons. The point is, people haven't noticed. For 4 years, they've been talking about this. I think people are getting a little tired of it. I think it's going to happen this year. And much love to all of you out there who sent Kevin and I some DMs the last 24 hours because that new WrestleMania trailer has Rock all over it. We told you Rock absolutely was going to be at 41. There was not a question. Dave Meltzer could say what he wants and people ran with it in their podcasts. Sometimes you got to use a half a brain and say, nah, man, that doesn't pass the smell test. Simply because somebody says something dumb doesn't mean that gives you an excuse to talk about it. You disagree with it, fine. You agree with it, fine. But don't simply just talk about something and try to use it for ad revenue and then say, oh, well, he's the one that reported it. Baron Trump. I knew I was close. I do see Corbin Trump and Baron Trump. Shows you how much I follow the Trump family. So what do you guys think? Vote. There's a poll up on this show right now. Vote. Which intro do we use for Monday's DTKC show? Do we use Joe Biden's or do we use Trump? We do have videos for Trump. I just didn't have a chance to put it all together. How crazy is that? How real does that sound? People say to me, like, what's the one thing I'm worried about the most in the future outside of illegal immigration and terrorism? It's some of these forms of AI. Because not everything is as advanced as an iPhone. But there are some tablets and some phones out there that all you do is put a picture up to the screen and it'll log on for you. That the face recognition software is not as advanced as an iPhone. So you steal somebody's tablet and you have a picture of them and you fucking put the tablet up to the picture of somebody and the tablet opens up. That's scary shit. You look at all this AI. Now look at Grok on Twitter. Look at Grok on Twitter. Shad Khan's kid, you better hope I never fucking steal your phone. And it better not be one of these Walmart $30 specials with horrible face recognition. Because I'll go on Grok and say, Type me up a serious picture, a serious looking face of Shad Khan's kid, and put it up to the phone, and I hack into your phone. And I see all that fucking Nickelodeon stuff that you have stored on your phone. Only Nickelodeon fans page. It's creepy, man. It's creepy shit. That if you're on our Patreon page, the Tessa Blanchard stuff was bizarre. I showed it to Kev, and Kev's like, what? Just take the word Blanchard for Tessa Blanchard, replace the B with a letter K, and we manipulated Grok to not only give us pictures of her wearing the outfits, but there's fire in the background. You just add stuff to it. You can't say add fire, add a bonfire, and then you see it. Oh, and add like trees in the background, and then it's crazy the way that shit is. I think the scariest thing, it hasn't happened yet. When the AI can search your social media account and find pictures of you, and then you have it make a picture of you. Because there's not that much software right now. You could say, hey, draw me hanging out with 15 models. You know, like, it doesn't recognize me yet. I'm not a public figure. I'm not a household name. So if you type in my name, nothing comes up. You go on Grok and type in the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle show. Just say, draw me a picture of Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle hanging out. You get two fat black guys hanging out in some type of a cafe. I'm like, where did you get that from? When it is able to scan your social media account and see your family pictures and see who you are, and then it starts making pictures based on you, oh my God. I could picture, just for a goof, like somebody taking a picture of somebody's wife and put it in a computer and say, draw me a picture of this person in bed with two guys. And then let AI spit out a picture, and then you text someone, oh my God, just found this picture of your wife. And even though you find out later that it's fake, you still, man, that shit's scary. That is scary shit because it looks so realistic. I mean, if you look closely, the skin is not perfect, but it's scary because this came out of nowhere. 6 months ago, I didn't know about any of this shit. Now, I mean, you look at a lot of podcasts out there, all they use is Grok AI pictures now for their podcasts. Nobody takes the time and makes like a nice, detailed, creative thumbnail anymore. They'll just say, Grok, hey, draw me a picture of Tony Khan crying, standing next to John Moxley in a zoo, with a goat. And it'll make the picture. And you put it online. That's what I would do, man. Seriously. If I wanted to ruin someone, I'd take a picture of them, put it in AI, say, take a picture of Ann whatever. Or better yet, if I have like a friend of mine that I had a falling out with, I say, Grok, draw me a picture of Joe whatever, in bed with three guys, and send it to his wife. Look what I found. Or better yet, I mean, listen to this closely. It's pretty fucking crazy when you think about it. Listen to this.
This is Joe Biden. I think you're listening to Don Tini and Off the Castle. Look, DA and KT are great. They don't do fake news. DT and KC, they are beating the COVID.
The Don Tini and Off the Castle show. It's crazy how real that shit sounds, man. Les, I did that. I ran it through AIs. You type it in, you put in pauses, you write pause, ... semicolon. You got to play around with it until it gets to exactly the way you want it. Even the Donald Trump one was not easy because the words did not sound like a sentence. When it said, I'm President Donald J. Trump, and you're listening to like it sounded the same tone. It didn't sound like a sentence. So I would have to do a little piece of it and then do another little piece of it. And then you splice everything together. And then you got to add a little background noise so the audio sounds consistent. If you listen to the Trump one once again, just listen to this closely. Just listen to this.
I'm President Donald J. Trump, and you're listening to the Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle Show. These two are tremendous.
See how it says these two are tremendous, comma, when it says Don, Tony, and Kevin Castle Show, period. Sometimes you would put it through and it would sound like one consistent sentence. It didn't sound real. You got to play around with it. But when you nail it, it's a beautiful thing, man. It's a beautiful thing. Oh, all right. Since we have this on the screen, where are you? Here it is. Who sent this earlier? I did appreciate that you sent this to me early. This was Peter Grippo. Pete, what's up, Pete? DT, I'm sending this early, so maybe you can find it. Please show me that picture of me on TV for the final moment. I guess you meant Thunderdome. It says the final moment of Thunderdome. Okay, I was talking about this last week. I don't remember which show it was. I think it was DTKC Show. You all remember Thunderdome. I was on Thunderdome, I would say about a dozen times, give or take a little bit. And most of the times I did Thunderdome, I would do it as Deli Man. And trust me, it's not fun sitting at the TV for 3 hours with that mask on. It smells like rotten ham after about 15 minutes. That's why I give credit to like all the masked wrestlers that wrestle for like a half an hour. By the time they go to the back, they must be breathing in the scent of like a dead horse's ass. It's disgusting how bad it smells. But I did Thunderdome, and for those that don't know the story, it's a pretty cool story. And thank you very much, Peter, for that. I did Thunderdome a ton of times, and they got a kick at a Deli Man thing. So they would always make sure that I was on camera. And I was searching some pictures earlier, and you see, look, I'm wearing a Mets jersey on the bottom. You see Liv Morgan? See, I'm wearing a Mets jersey there. But I started with the sausage, and because it was Deli Man, and I would be like this, and I would take pictures of the sausages. I'd be like this. So the final night, the final ever Thunderdome, this is a pretty cool story. I think some of you appreciate this. The final ever Thunderdome that WWE had, I was on that show. And if you look, they had me behind the commentator's table. If you look to the left, you'll see me there holding a salami. So one of the guys that hosted Thunderdome, I talked to him a little bit over the, the months that I was on Thunderdome. So that night, he comes on during a commercial break, and he says, Ant, be ready. He says, I got a little surprise for you. And I was like, sure, what is it? He's like, don't worry about it. Just make sure you pay attention to the TV. So if you look at the last ever Thunderdome, there I am the whole night behind the commentator's table. The last match that they ever had on Thunderdome for Raw, the final, if you go back and watch the final moment that you will ever see on Thunderdome, what this guy did that worked for WWE, he took my image from the commentator's desk and put me right smack at ringside. That's Rhea Ripley with the pin. If you look back, the final Thunderdome, he put me right smack ringside. And listen, it just brought out the little kid in me. Thunderdome sucked. I would never want it back. But that was pretty fucking cool, to be honest with you. I got a kick out of it. The same night, just for the final match, if you go back and you watch that episode of Raw, they took me and put me right smack in the camera. I thought that was pretty cool. I thought that was a very, very cool. So, all right, let's move on because believe it or not, we're already almost in an hour and we're going 90 minutes today. Sharp, because tomorrow we got a loaded show to get into. We've done almost 3 hours, like consecutive weeks now. Tyrese is looking forward to Charlotte's return. I will tell you, SmackDown Friday, showing the video for Charlotte's return, makes me believe she is not the one who attacked Jade. I've said for a few weeks now that it could be Naomi. It could be Charlotte Flair. Also could be Bianca. Some people still think that. To me, that doesn't make sense. Why would Bianca want to take out her partner when they were tag champs? Naomi's the most logical answer. But the fact that they reintroduced Charlotte to television makes me believe she's not the one who attacked Jade. Because whoever it is, it's got to be an absolute surprise. And if Charlotte would have been the one, you don't announce her imminent return. Jade could say that she got footage. Or somebody in the back, Nick Aldis or somebody says, we found who attacked you. We finally got the footage. We requested it. Took us a month, 2 months. We finally got the footage. Then if it's Charlotte Flair, that's how you reintroduce her back to TV. So the fact that they did a video that early before the reveal tells me Charlotte is not the one. Charlotte is not the one. Steve and Charlotte looks exactly the same. The only reason why Charlotte looks different for a lot of people is because a lot of the videos that she shows, she's not wearing any makeup. Charlotte looks the same. She's a little thinner now, obviously. She's done carnivore. So is Andrade and a few others. This carnivore 1 meal a day thing is catching on with a lot of WWE stars. Braun Strowman was on it not too long ago. There's been a few. LA Knight was on it. The 1 meal a days and the carnivores is two most popular diets people are on right now, especially 1 meal a day. But Charlotte looks pretty close to what she was. So, but she just doesn't have like a lot of makeup right now. DeMarcus. What's up, DeMarcus? DeMarcus with a 10 spot. He says, 2 of my earliest memories of wrestling as a kid is Crash Holly coming out in the WWF Attitude shirt with the weight scale and Deborah's giant bazoombas in the stone cold vest with a plate of cookies. Crash Holly, Mike Lockwood, I think his name was, still have the police report, man. That is such a sad fucking story, man. I remember Stevie Richards was very close with Crash Holly. Crash Holly was great, man. He was one of my highlights with the Hardcore Championship. Especially when you saw the feuds and see them going to like, I think they went to Jersey, some kid's place, and they're brawling in the airport. Not just him, obviously others too. But Crash Holly, especially his weight was always inflated. He was a really, really likable guy, man. That is someone that really shocked a lot of people when he died. Unfortunately, he had abuse issues. Like I said, I still have the police report because we covered it at the time. That was rough, man. That was pretty rough. And I remember, in fact, I don't remember if Stevie Richards, the one, I think he tried to contact him that day, but I know Stevie Richards was involved to a certain extent. He wasn't the only one, but yeah, Crash Holly was great, man. Hardcore Holly, I was not a fan of. I didn't like Sparky Plug. We always called him Bucky Plug because he had the buck teeth. He looked like one of those chipmunks. We call him Bucky Plug. But when he teamed up with Crash, that was fun. Then you had Molly Holly with them. And then she became Mighty Molly down the line. Deborah, listen, I was never a fan of Deborah's. She was not good at all cutting promos in WCW when she was still at Mongo. By the way, just a lot of thoughts with Steve Mongo McMichael, man. That's just awful. I watched a vintage 85 Bears game yesterday. And I think it was week 3 And Jim McMahon, who was injured at the time, came. They think they were facing the Vikings, and they were down big in the third quarter. And Jim McMahon came in, even though he was still injured, fucking 2 bombs, 2 touchdowns. Next thing you know, the Bears won to like 30-24 or something. And Steve McMichael was a monster in that game too. And to see what's happened to him, man, that's awful. I don't believe Crash Holly died in Stevie Richards' house. I don't recall that. I don't think it happened in Pennsylvania either. Maybe they shared a house. I don't recall that, but I do remember Stevie Richards all over that situation. That was tragic. Deborah, I never really got into Deborah. She was funny with Steve Austin, though, when she was in the back, just watching her, see if she could break character when Kurt Angle would do the goofy stuff in the back. Even when Steve Austin would get really, really angry at Kurt and he would like say funny things to Vince, you always look over at Deborah to see if she cracks, but she never did. I felt bad when she fell under the spell of Marvin Ward. Does anybody remember Marvin Ward? You probably don't remember that name. I'm pretty sure it was Marvin Ward. We covered it about 15 years ago. 15 years, maybe a little less. But this guy, Marvin Ward, who was an agent, I think he was also a wrestling promoter, he convinced Deborah that mainstream wrestling fans wanted her back on TV. He tried to set up a nationwide press tour where Deborah went on interviews on radio shows. And there was trying to set up a petition to get Deborah into TNA, realign with Jeff Jarrett. And she did like 1 or 2 interviews. And I remember Kevin and I covered it, and we have the footage too. And we heard it, and we were like, oh my God, I don't know what the fuck this guy told her. But she's not that stupid to think, like he really made her believe that overwhelmingly the wrestling universe wanted Deborah McMichael back on TV. And it never happened. She just quietly drifted away, almost to never be seen ever again. That guy, I don't know if, listen, I'm not trying to sound like a jerk. I always felt that he was either sleeping with her or he was trying to sleep with her. Sorry, that's exactly how I felt back then. Marvin Ward, I'm pretty sure that was his name. Look it up. I'm sure you'll still find remnants of that story out there. So, thank you, DeMarcus, for that. Oh, yeah, you know what? Shout out to our made men and women on YouTube. Nick Caroccia and Wing Moonlight, our newest 2 members on YouTube, channel members. Wing Moonlight, I know you got like 3 shout outs 3 weeks in a row because you're the only person who signed up in the last 3 weeks, but Mr. Caraccia joined us as well. So shout out to these very fine gentlemen and women out there, numerous women. Do you all believe when Triple H says that WWE's audience is 40% women? I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. That maybe women are watching, but they're watching with their men. But I don't believe. Yeah, DeMarcus, I say numerous women because there's about 4 or 5. Say about 4 or 5. But $1 million giveaway. What's this with the $1 million giveaway? Oh, DeMarcus says, didn't I say that I have Vince Bucks from the $1 million giveaway? I do somewhere, and I also have this, but this is not the $1 million giveaway. I just so happen to have it on my desk. This came with one of the Wyatt gifts. I don't know if you all could see that. Oh, you can see that or not? But it's the Yowie Wowie Vince Bucks. So I have it in a little frame thing. So I have some some fictitious Vince dollars. It's pretty funny when you see the picture on his face. I remember it looked similar to the mugshot he had a couple of years later. But I gotta go check. I have a box of memorabilia. I have so much memorabilia on my desk right now. My God, just for some reason, I just found this very rare Charlotte Flair autograph card. If you look in the back, it's the first one out of 25. Only 25 of them were made. I don't remember what year this is. This is 2016. So this is almost 10 years old. So I got a couple of rare ones here. The two I think that are worth the most, this is, I think, a rookie card for AJ Lee, autographed. And I have the Page one over here. This is a Page one. I got a few. Up here. I don't know where my Max Dupree stuff is. My Max Dupree stuff is great. So I gotta go look. I gotta see what I have over there. I'll definitely let you know. I'll look this week. So S21 Ultra, why is AEW not able to create superstars like WWE did with Penta as an example? Because the motives are different. This is just to please Tony Khan. You know, obviously it has to be successful enough to stay on television. So they have to put something out there. But as long as Tony Khan's he's happy, that's really all that matters. It's not as cut and dry as that, but that's it. As long as you please him, that's it. So they're not interested in listen, Dustin has a school. Dustin does not make a hell of a lot of money. So he has the school, obviously, to make money and to obviously try to build the stars of tomorrow. You have the Nightmare Factory. You have others that have wrestling schools, Booker T and others. All right, they're not all doing it because they want to help build the future of AEW. You know, what's funny is that you look at AEW from 2-3 years ago, and a lot is the same. If you take away Mercedes Moné and Okada and Will Ospreay, even Ricochet, a lot of the matches are the same. You know, you look at a lot of wrestlers have not developed. They gain, I brought this up last week, they gain experience, but they don't develop. You know, 5 years. Look where Ricky Starks is. Look where Powerhouse Hobbs is. Look what Lance Archer is at. Look at, you know, and I know I bring up those three names, but look at the Malachi Black stuff. You know, Malachi Black, they say one of the biggest disappointments in AEW history. That wasn't his fault. That's because he had the same mindset like CM Punk. CM Punk said that AEW, Tony Khan is not there to make money. Tony Khan Shad Khan's kid is there because he's a billionaire. And he doesn't have a wife and kids to blow his money on. He doesn't have an OnlyFans obsession to blow it on. So he blows it on his toys. And his toys happen to have 2 legs, 2 hands, in some cases breasts, in some cases a penis. They all wear wrestling attire and they perform. You know, that's what it is. I mean, people need to realize that. This is to please him. It's basically, it's his pleasure, and it just so happens to have cameras there that you can watch people performing for him. They're performing for him. Now, obviously, some wrestlers perform for more than just pleasing Tony Khan. They do this because they love wrestling. They do this because this is their livelihood. They do this to set their family for life. They do this because they want to create a legacy for themselves. And you look, when some wrestlers leave, their whole AEW legacy goes away. You don't even think about it anymore. So, Jeff says, is it true that Jerry Lawler was going to wrestle Elvis? I don't know the whole story about it, but I believe it was 1972, 3 or 4. It was somewhere in the early 70s that Jerry Lawler, no, maybe it was 1975, that Jerry Lawler met Elvis, and Elvis always wanted to do something in wrestling. And I think that was lightheartedly talked about, but I don't ever believe that was serious. I don't believe Elvis ever was going to wrestle. Maybe teasing a spot here and there, but I don't recall ever that being a buzz. Even I do know that they definitely met each other. I'm almost 100% certain of that, but I don't believe that he was ever going to wrestle. I don't believe that. I was very surprised when Muhammad Ali got into it. Muhammad Ali, man, I wish he would have been 10 years younger. Because if he was 10 years younger and got out of boxing a little bit earlier, at an early age, I could just imagine. Could you imagine if Muhammad Ali was even a little past his prime and around in the 80s? Man, that would have made the Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler stuff look like nothing. Because he would have been able to physically do something that Mania. I think Muhammad Ali would have done something with Roddy Piper. I think after the Mr. T stuff, I think Muhammad Ali would have knocked Roddy Piper out. And I'm a huge fan of Roddy Piper. I say that as a wrestling fan more than anything. Tristan wants to know, what do I think of the Macho Man segment where Jake Roberts biting him? I don't have the picture back here anymore, but it's one of my favorite moments. The snake wasn't poisonous. So they did that on purpose. They knew that the snake was going to bite Macho Man. Because it was such an infamous moment, things have gotten exaggerated over the years. Next thing you know, like, oh, yeah, no, the snake was poisonous and that wasn't planned and Macho Man could have died from it. As it became bigger than what it was, the story was exaggerated a little bit, but it was kind of wild at the time, man. It was a little disturbing to see that fucking snake biting Macho Man. That was not fake. But, yeah, it was kind of wild at that time. It was wild. Dreamers Lane, thoughts of Triple H being bit by Steve Austin's rattlesnake as a kid? Thought it was real and it scared him seeing Triple H's infected face. Yeah, there's been some pretty bad ideas over the years involving animals, pets. One of my favorites that WWE never brings up anymore. It's one of my favorite angles in WWE history involving animals, and I've always made sure to include it on This Week in Wrestling History. Does anybody remember Triple H's dog's name, the Bulldog? Does anybody remember Triple H's dog's name? For those that, before I tell everybody this story, if you don't know it, the story with Triple H's dog is better than Pepper. We knew that Al Snow was eating Chinese food. I fed you Pepper. Like this day and age, you'd be like, yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, sure. And this little piece of meat is his head, right? Look, it's part of his brain. Oh, maybe that's good with a little soy sauce. Lucy, thank you. Lucy. It was Lucy, Kyle. Thank you. They did a storyline where Triple H brought his bulldog to, I think it was Raw or SmackDown. I think it was Raw. And Stephanie and Triple H were kind of like not getting along as well at that time. So Triple H left Lucy with Stephanie. And Jericho at the time was doing the alliance with Stephanie a little bit. So Jericho comes in and Stephanie's like, watch this dog. And I don't remember if Lucy took a shit. I think she took a dump on the floor. But Jericho, I think the story was, if I remember correctly, he tied the leash to either the tailpipe of the car or something to the car because he didn't want to walk Lucy around. And the car pulled away. And all of a sudden you hear, and they simulated that Lucy got run over by the car, man. When they did that, I was like, that was fucking good, man. I'm a little surprised that Jericho doesn't talk more about that storyline. That was a funny storyline. Of course, no dogs were hurt in the making of that skit. But it was just funny out of nowhere that he brings his dog. It was a bring dog to work day. So that was good shit, man. I hated the McMahons versus Shawn Michaels and God match. That was just awful. The only thing good about that was when Shane McMahon and Vince were in the, I'm going to do it. I don't care. I got to do it this way so I don't wet anything I'm not supposed to. Pretend this is like the holy water, and Vince and Shane McMahon were in the church. And Vince, because, preparation, I think, to fight God. And Vince sees the holy water, and Vince says, Shane, look at this. And he spits the water everywhere like Triple H. It was the funniest shit, man. That was funny shit. And Shane is like, come on, you're in a church. That was good shit. I love skits like that. I thought it was funny, man. One of my favorites, I'm wiping water up. We got 10 minutes left, guys, by the way. One of my favorites, when Booker T was feuding with Steve Austin, forget the supermarket. Supermarket was awesome. Price check on a jackass. What about when they were playing bingo? They're playing bingo, and Booker T is in the fucking bingo hall playing bingo with all the old ladies. I lost it, man. I fucking lost it because when I was a kid, I went with my grandmother to wrestling shows and I went with her to bingo. You would sit down like 2 games for $1 and you have all these elderly people with like sometimes with their grandkids and they're playing bingo in a bingo hall. It was, the way they did it was so perfect. And then Booker T's reaction when Steve Austin showed up was great. A lot of those old ladies had no idea who they were, by the way. All right. The skits with Shane McMahon and Vince, even if they're not close anymore, that was good shit, man. That was good shit. I think this lawsuit is at a major turning point right now. I don't know how much we're going to talk about it tomorrow, but they're at a turning point where now Janelle Grant's lawyers have until the 31st of January to amend their complaint. Otherwise, the court will address Vince's request for arbitration. See, for those that want straight up honesty without emotion, Janelle Grant's lawyers were hoping that the SEC were going to find some type of criminal behavior on behalf of Vince. When the SEC came with their findings like 2 weeks ago, and the case in Southern New York appears to be coming to a close as well, if it hasn't already, now they realize, oh shit, we don't have nothing else to add to it. So now what her lawyers did was they asked for a stay, a conference stay. They wanted to talk to the court to see the best way to proceed forward. And the court said, no, we're not accepting that. It seemed like the lawyers were trying to buy some time. And the court said to Janelle Grant's lawyers, no, you have until January 31st to amend your complaint against Vince McMahon. Otherwise, we proceed forward. And then Vince, his request for arbitration will be addressed. If Janelle Grant's lawyers do not amend their complaint, they have to amend it with facts. They can make accusations, but if they discovered something out of this SEC filing that they want to add to their lawsuit, they have until January 31st. We're already at January 19th. They don't amend their lawsuit, the next step is the court of reviews if this goes to arbitration. And if that goes to arbitration, this case is done. Because the case is I think what'll happen is Vince will be forced to give Janelle Grant the other $2 million that she was owed. And that's the end of it. That's the end of it. So, and did Vince buy his way out of it? Probably. Probably. He had really good high-paying lawyers. Problem is, for those that maybe don't understand it, when you hear Janelle's, whether you like it or not, when you hear Janelle Grant's lawyer, Ann Callis, go online and say, Vince, do the right thing. Let all the women out of the NDAs. There isn't a billionaire Pollock alive that would do that. That's to just gain emotion. These were agreements. Vince made agreements. I make you rich. In return, you keep your silence. So that's the deal. It's a contract. Same idea with Shad Khan's kid with all the NDAs that he has wrestlers sign. I give you extra money and you do not talk about our company. It's a contract. You may not like the participants in the contract, but that's what it is. So how is Vince doing the right thing by letting people out of it? Making a contract about an NDA does not necessarily mean that anybody did anything criminally wrong. If you slept with someone and you were a married person, it's not illegal. It's inappropriate, but should someone pay millions over it? So you realize that all she's been doing is trying to get the internet and obviously some wrestling media out there. You know what it is? I don't want to name names. You'll see a couple of wrestling news sites that whenever they report about the Janelle Grant Vince lawsuit, right at the bottom of their story, they'll put up hotlines for women of sexual abuse. You've been assaulted, raped, anything. And that's great to have. But why are you only putting it under a lawsuit accusation for Vince? What if it ends up that this was 50 Shades of Grey and there wasn't any abuse done? You see what I mean by that? It's like you're trying to insinuate that Vince, and I'm not supporting Vince. I'm not sticking. I just want the truth. But you realize Ann Callis is not stupid. Ann Callis gives the press releases to all the people that she knows that will interpret it that Vince should be in jail. But at the end of the day, those people are going to feel Vince bought his way out of freedom again because they convinced themselves, that Vince is this, just like Trump is a Nazi and everything else. You get fed a certain thing, and they're very smart. These lawyers see who latches onto it, and then they keep going to those same people. So Jeff is saying, how is Billy Gunn getting WWE action figures consistently while being signed AEW? There's a wrestling aspect involved with it. Plus, it's more of a Legends deal. Some wrestlers, let me use the opposite. AEW does not have a lot of the legalese that prevents wrestlers from doing something else. As long as it doesn't conflict. I mean, Billy Gunn is not going to show up on WWE television unless Shad Khan's kid, okays it. He does business the right way. So they do a little merchandise stuff, and there's no conflict there. So, let me answer some more super shout outs before we jet. Why do I keep hitting the wrong thing? DeMarcus with another 10 spot. Thank you, DeMarcus. Javon Evans and Ethan Page quietly telling a good story and having a really good feud. What if they both get transferred to SmackDown to continue it? Adds new players for the U.S. title. Ethan Page just did a little storyline tease where he's trying to get John Cena to show up in NXT. I think John Cena will appear on NXT once or twice in 2025. Now with the added aspect of TNA wrestlers showing up on NXT on a semi-regular basis, that allows Ethan Page a lot more people to feud with. Even if he feuds with one or two people that he already feuded with in TNA, a lot of people don't realize that some of the greatest feuds that we saw in the 80s in WWF TV also took place in the AWA. Even you look at Flair Piper. You know, Flair, when he first came to the WWF in 1991, you know, Flair and Piper had a war in the mid-Atlantic. And, you know, you rekindle feuds. You look at even when wrestlers went to WCW and, you know, rekindled some feuds then as well. I don't think Ethan Page should go to the main roster right now because I get the same fear that I fear right now with LA Knight. LA Knight got himself so over with his chant, you know, his catchphrase with the gas stuff. Excuse me for yawning. I'm tired. But now what? He won the U.S. title. Then they're like, oh, fuck, who is he going to feud with? So now they're commingling him with the bloodline a little bit. But you kind of feel like LA Knight's like stuck in the mud right now. You put Ethan Page, I feel like WWE will treat him like Carmelo Hayes right now. He'll talk a lot of stuff, get his ass kicked. Talk a lot of shit, get his ass kicked. I don't know if Ethan Page is best suited for that on the main roster right now. So I would keep him in NXT for a little bit longer. And Javon Evans to me is still a year or two away before going to the main roster. You know, one thing I'll give Triple H credit about is there's been a couple of times where we were convinced somebody was going to the main roster and it didn't happen right away. Bron Breakker is a great example of that. Bron Breakker, we thought was going to the main roster a year before he actually did. I mean, on a like promoted and that's it. They waited an extra year. He teamed up with Corbin and he did it, you know, he was the world champion for an extended period of time. Now you see that extra year was perfect. Not only was it another year experience, it was timing. It was great fucking timing. Gunther had a stranglehold on that Intercontinental Championship a year before. And then you're like, if you would have brought up Bron Breakker at that time, you know, it was not the right time. They waited an extra year. Now Gunther is world champ and Braun is IC champ. Same thing with Trick Williams. Many of us thought Trick Williams, the night after WrestleMania, was going to show up on Raw or SmackDown. Didn't happen. And you realize, as over as Trick Williams was, I mean, people forget last year when he showed up on SmackDown. That guy was fucking over. Doesn't matter. They still felt, no, we got to give him more time. And he's still doing, and look at Last Legend. No offense to those wrestling news sites, but it's been 5 months now since they said that Last Legend was done with NXT. Anybody remember that? It's funny. This week in wrestling history coming up, I researched 2024. Yes, 2024. Your favorites in the media world without mentioning names. They all were saying Gunther was winning the Royal Rumble. I will mention one person. Two. Gunther was winning the Royal Rumble. Cody Rhodes was going to take on CM Punk. Roman was going to take on The Rock. Oh, and by the way, Roman was going to take on The Rock was before Cody won the Rumble and hugged The Rock on SmackDown, and Cody walked off, by the way. Nobody remembers that, but that came out 2 weeks before the hug. Before The Rock became part of TKO on the board. Because it was this week, a year ago, Rock became on the board of directors. The rumor of Rock and Roman was 2 weeks before the Rumble. You got to pay attention to that stuff. But Justin Barrasso of Sports Illustrated, you don't hear that name much anymore. You know why? A year ago, he put out a whole bunch of fake news. Let's call it like we see it. Fake news. You know why I call it fake news? I'm going to read his statement on Thursday when you check out the History Show. And when he talked about Gunther winning the Royal Rumble and talked about a whole bunch of things that ended up being wrong because the Royal Rumble happened and then he realized, he was wrong. In his, and this is why words matter. In his press release, Justin Barrasso, he says that he apologized, that his sources that he trusted over the years were incorrect. Sounds like the same thing that Wade Keller has pulled last year. But he also said in his statement that he posted a bunch of spoilers. He actually believed those were spoilers. Not like the WrestleVotes and the cute words like it is heavily being discussed. It is steering in this direction. They use those words to try to cover up that they honestly don't know what the fuck is going on. When you say things like that and you can say, oh, WWE changed their mind. Look at The Rock now. In the next 24 hours, you're going to see a ton of media saying The Rock's schedule became available for WrestleMania 4. Yeah, just like, oh, yeah, I was going to do Conan O'Brien, but, it became available. So, yeah, I could show up. Yeah, kind of like fit into my schedule. But he actually said, I posted spoilers that turned out to be incredible. And I was like, how dare you claim that you have spoilers? Spoiler means that you know for 100% fact Gunther was winning the Royal Rumble. That wasn't a spoiler, but this is how people cover up this shit. You have to see the amount of fake news that was going on right as we speak a year ago right now. It's wild when you look back on it. But again, Javon Evans is not main roster ready, and Ethan Page, I think, would get lost in the shuffle. Ethan Page is great. But on the main roster, do you see like a majority of WWE Universe getting behind him to see him get his ass kicked? They have Austin Theory and Grayson Waller to fit that role right now. If you turn Austin Theory babyface, you want to align Ethan Page with Grayson Waller a little bit, even though that sounds like an oddball team, maybe. But I don't think that should be so. All right, we're gonna wrap this up in 5 minutes. I want to thank you all for spending part of your evening with me. We definitely have to do more episodes during the week. You just got to fit them into the schedule because every day there's something going on. Monday is DTKC. Tuesday is a news update plus Patreon. Tuesday's Patreon. Wednesday's a news update. Thursdays is the history show. Friday is the news update. Saturday is kind of like my off day. And then Sunday is the news and the sit down. So we got to try to fit it in. Benjamin says that Chinese spyware brain rot app, TikTok getting shut down was one of the best birthday presents ever. Thanks, Uncle Joe. TikTok is back up. 90 days. And a lot of people think that Elon Musk is going to buy it. It's going to be interesting to see the future of how media is being handled, especially with Elon Musk out there and others, very, very powerful people. But, you look at Facebook, Google, for everybody that's like worried about Elon Musk right now, I don't like him. Make it clear, I don't like him. Mark Zuckerberg, I don't like him either. But what a lot of you don't realize, or maybe haven't noticed, when I used to be a Trump supporter 8 years ago, it's not that I'm not a supporter now, but I really fell out of favor of politics over the last 4 years, even before Biden became president. I felt both sides were fucking with us, and they were gaining a lot of money off of us. But over the last 8 years, Google did so much shit with their algorithms and search results to heavily favor Democrats. And trust me, that was not just a figure of speech or a crazy claim. You would intentionally Google things, and almost every time you couldn't find certain search results, other things would be in favor of others. It was just very, very biased. So now it's suddenly people are worried because Elon Musk, it's the same shit. Just, when it runs your way, nobody says anything. When it runs against you, now all of a sudden it's risky. TikTok data transferred to Meta servers in North Carolina. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I'm not on TikTok. I honestly could care less. If I was born with a nice set of tits and a nice ass, my hair wasn't gray on the sides right now, maybe I could go up there and dance a little bit, maybe get a couple of bucks my way, but I'm just not a TikTok kind of guy. I can't. Yeah, put it this way. If I ever went on TikTok, I would have to be like that superhuman guy. I have nothing against him personally, but I'm just waiting for him to get hospitalized in critical condition. You know who that is? That's the guy that I think suffers what Tony Khan has. And he stands on like a platform and he's like, I'm superhuman. And he pulls his shirt off and reveals that he's got flab maybe as much as me. And he's like, go fuck yourself. And then he dives off onto like random things. He just did an elbow drop on a cinder block, a real cinder block. For what? I give him credit, man. I give him credit. That guy's got a set of balls. He's done like mice traps. He's done glass. He did old TV tube. He's a crazy guy. But, I'm going to come up with some interesting stuff for him to dive onto. Let's see if he has the balls of doing it. That's the only way I think I would get over on TikTok. If I showed up and did the same thing, just like randomly like dive onto things that'll hurt me. So it is dumb. It is very dumb. But you know what? Give him credit that he hasn't killed himself by now. Let's be honest. That guy could have seriously, seriously injured himself by now, and he hasn't. So, yeah, go check him out on Twitter. He just posted a video of him elbow dropping the cinder block yesterday, I think. And this is bad. Oh, God. No elbow pads, too, by the way. But you know what I wish, seriously? And I would pay this probably. He should go on OnlyFans. No, I don't want to see him pull his pants down. He should go on OnlyFans and make everybody pay like $5 a month to see like an extra 30 seconds. Because if any of you have ever seen a video of his, when he lands, you only see 2-3 seconds of pain and then it cuts off. I want to see the extended cut. I want 30, 45 seconds of this man crying like a little fucking baby. Like, I want to see the injuries. I want to see, like, I need to go to the hospital. I want to see 45 seconds of agony, not just 2 seconds. That's the only thing I don't like about his videos. He cuts it off after 3 seconds. Like, just when it was getting good, man. Just when we were like, what are you fucking... And then it cuts off. You're like, motherfucker. And trust me, a lot of you would pay $5 a month, too. You know you would. Patreon.com/Don Tony if you want to spend $5 a month. Kevin and I have 8 years of Patreon shows up there. We're still doing them. And shout out again to our channel members here on YouTube. Shout out to everybody that enjoys what we do. Kevin and I are really, just expecting a tremendous 2025. Little cheap plug. This is not the official thumbnail, but I wanted to put something together. Kevin and I will be live right here in 2 weeks, February 2nd. We will be recapping and reviewing the Royal Rumble right here on YouTube. And we are also going to celebrate us being back for 1 year. January 29th will be officially 1 year with us back together after many years on hiatus. And that'll be 2 weeks from today. Tomorrow, Kevin and I will be live on our Discord, DTKCDiscord.com, if you want to join us. And we'll talk about Raw. Before we get out of here, anybody want to type some results for TNA for the last 90 minutes? I want to know who won. I mean, obviously the show is still going on, so do not take this as a recap. But I want to give a couple of quick thoughts on some of the outcomes. I want to see how we did. So give me some outcomes for Impact so far. Did Ace Austin win the title? And the X Division Championship is all but saved. Tessa won. I think we all expected that. Tessa Blanchard won. I tell you, Jordan Grace, man, complete pro. Complete pro. Moose won? Okay. Well, there goes my perfect record for that. Actually, I did say Moose will win, but I'd like to see Ace Austin win just to preserve the X Division belt as it is. Tessa won. Spitfire won. Okay, that was one of my predictions. I didn't think Dana Brooks should be a tag champ yet, even though she's improved. All right, so we got 3 matches. The crowd chanting, "You're a racist," towards Tessa. Listen, I don't know what really happened. My gut feeling is that she said it out of adrenaline. Sometimes we say things that we regret. And I think that either she didn't realize she said it or totally convinced that she's got to deny it till the day she dies. But how many years have gone by? I mean, we don't know of any other incidents. We know she's an asshole. Kev had a beautiful rant about this about a month ago. Tessa Blanchard is not a racist. She's an asshole. There's a big difference here. She made amends with La Rosa Negra. They are friends, and there's no other cases of her doing that. This is not a Hulk Hogan, brother. Oh, by the way, tomorrow, Kevin and I are going to have a lot of fun with Booker T's statement about Hulk Hogan. If you thought Eric Bischoff's explanation or assumption as to why Hogan got booed on the Netflix debut, wait till you hear Booker T's excuse. I don't get it. I don't get it. If these guys are friend of Hulk's, just come out and say, listen, he's my friend. Not going to throw him under the bus. Sure, there's some reasons I can understand why people feel the way that they do. But to come out and say the things that they said, Booker T's is even worse than Eric Bischoff. So you know why it's even worse? Because I truthfully believe that he believes this. That I don't want to spoil it, but he's basically just saying that Hulk Hogan is outdated. Like he didn't adapt his gimmick to 2025 standards. It's the same old shit. His presentation is outdated. I read it and I'm like, this can't be. And then I heard the clip and I was like, man, just come out and say, look, I'm friends with the guy and I'm not going to, throw him under the bus. They come up with these wild excuses that makes no sense. So any other results? Eric Young and Steve Macklin beat the System. Ooh, okay. All right. That's another one that I got wrong. Frankie Kazarian won the pre-show. Yes, I expected that. And I don't think he'll cash in his Call Your Shot trophy. I think a lot of people forgot about that. I don't want to see that. Maybe Frankie could cash it in on NXT guy. Hey, TNA and WWE are working together now. Have Frankie Kazarian show up in NXT. Take the Heritage Cup away from Brian Pillman Jr. I'm just trying to be creative. So, all right. Did the Hardys wrestle? I don't believe they wrestled as of yet. One last question before we go off the air. Thoughts on TKO promoting a boxing match in Saudi Arabia? Yeah, I mean, it is what it is, guys. You're going to see people doing business in Saudi Arabia. Everybody thinks that, when WWE goes to Saudi Arabia next year for the Royal Rumble, that CM Punk won't be in it because of his, views about Saudi Arabia. You see Sami Zayn there, and you see others there. That should tell you that you cannot assume, what's right and what's wrong. Honestly, I think the bigger story is what's going on with Israel and Hamas right now. See the hostages being freed. I think 3 women from Israel were released today, and I think like 1,000 prisoners from Hamas are being released. And I know that sounds very one-sided, but that's going to be interesting. going forward. But business is business. TKO is going to, you know what? TKO is going to make an insane amount of money in Saudi Arabia. And you know what else? The investors are going to love it. I'll leave you with this, guys. Yeah, no, Craig says it's 300 prisoners. Wait a day or two. They're already talking about 1,000. This is more than that. They're starting with 300, but I'll leave everybody with this. What was I going to say? About a month and a half ago, I made a prediction that the WWE stock will reach $200 a share before the end of 2025. Everybody that commented on it thinks that I am fucking nuts. Right now, the WWE stock is up to $144 a share. $144. So when you realize back 20 years ago, I owned that stock for $10 a share. I think I paid $9.90 a share, and I sold it. I think I had 100 shares, and I sold it. It went up a little bit, and then it went down a lot, and I think I came very close to breaking even. If I would have held on to those shares, I would have had 100 shares right now, worth $144 a share. That's 14 times. Yes, I know the dollar's worth different now, but that's 14 times as much, plus all the dividends that I would have got. Josh Alexander lost and said he quit TNA. Yeah, I expected Josh Alexander to lose. Yeah, I said I can't see Mike Santana quitting right now. If anybody heard my predictions for Friday, I couldn't see Mike Santana quitting right now with the way they built him up. Funny thing is, Josh Alexander, NXT, I could see it. I don't know how over that'll be. When you look at the demo that they're really trying to target on the CW network, and yes, I don't focus on the demo, but when you realize that the CW, is trying to gain a certain audience, what's interesting, guys? I'll leave you with this. I'll add one more thing. NXT this week did almost, I think, 800,000 viewers. 7 and change, let's say. You look at the demo. Demo was a lot lower than what you have thought for a rating over 700,000. And then you realize that the added number of viewers were all past the age of 50. And that goes back to what I said about the CW network about 9 months ago, that the CW network's biggest problem right now is that they're trying to capitalize on the 18 to 34 demographic. And the average viewer of the CW network right now keep in mind, this is before NXT showed up there. If you've ever watched CW programming, you would think that CW network is targeting for like late teens, early 20s type of people. With that programming that they had, their average viewer is, I think, 53 years old. That's pretty interesting when you think about it. So NXT had a nice little boost, even with The Rock not being on. But then when you break it down, the added viewers were all past the age of 50. That's not the demo that CW is trying to capture. So, and remember, the advertising, the advertising is targeting certain age groups. And when you're advertising this, and then you find out that this age is watching it, you're like, maybe I'm advertising on the wrong channel. So, oh, by the way, this one was great. I can't remember the website too, but when we were talking about fake news from a year ago, just so you guys know, this week is also the year anniversary that the Netflix deal was announced. It was a year ago this week, the Netflix deal was announced. Actually, a year ago this week, the Netflix deal was announced. The Rock being added to the board of directors was announced. The Janelle Grant lawsuit was announced, and Vince resigning. All happened a year ago this week. But something else, when we were talking about all the fake news before, some of the mainstream wrestling sites were all saying that Netflix subscribers will not get ads for WWE programming. And they were not talking about overseas. This was United States, American viewers. That network subscribers on the ad-free platform will not get ads. You will get WWE segments in place of it. If all they had to do is say for international viewers, and they would have been right, but their audience is United States, and they got it wrong. So listen, everybody's wrong. At times I'm wrong too. But, you know, if you're going to guess, at least say you're guessing, or say that I believe that this is what it is. The problem is these people report it as news and they got a 50-50 shot of being right. So they roll the dice. That's why, if you notice, WrestleVotes is usually right half the time. 50-50. You know, it's either going to be yes or it's going to be no. The Rock's going to appear. It's either going to be yes or it's going to be no. So, all right, everybody. Much love as always. I want to thank you all again for all your support for my dog Bruno. Tomorrow we're bringing him to the vet just to make sure that he can get his onesie taken off. So he's a week since being neutered. He's pretty much back to normal, so he's doing well. And, you know, just want to thank everybody for your support. So I will be back tomorrow night with Kev, 15 minutes after Raw goes off the air. Now, we pretty much know what Raw is right now, between 2:15 and 2:30, as far as time frame, 2 hours, 15 minutes, 2 hours, 30 minutes. That's pretty much where they're going to be. So 15 minutes after it ends, we'll be live for the DTKC show. And then we have the news reports this week in Patreon. So keep supporting the website, dtkcshow.com. If you haven't voted yet, please vote. Which intro do we use tomorrow night? And I will tell you this. I am going to add some music in the background. I'm going to add some presidential music in the background to whoever we use, if it's Trump or it's Biden. Maybe we'll use both. Maybe we'll use the leading vote getter at the beginning of the show, and then we'll use the other one towards the end of the show. But I appreciate it as always. Much love. Send your feedback, post your questions, and just want to thank you again for your support. Appreciate it. Have a good rest of your day. Tomorrow is a holiday, MLK Day. So remember why, you know, a lot of people have off. And, you know, let's hope that everything is peaceful tomorrow, you know, and we'll talk about it. You know, I'm sure Tuesday's Patreon will definitely be interesting. It's an off-the-cuff episode, so I definitely expect some politic questions to be asked. But we'll talk about it. So I'm out of here, everyone. Be well. I'll catch you all again soon.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. It doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.